Hello everybody. Today we are going to be replacing the air valve in a first gen RockShox Sid. So that is a 1998 RockShox Sid. In that year they used a ball needle valve to fill up the air in the fork. And so there is some little rubber valves that dry up and go bad, but luckily for us, SRP, Specialty Retro Products, makes new little valves. So we are going to replace these in this fork, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so first I'm going to show you the tools you're going to need for this project. Super simple. We're going to need a small Phillips screwdriver, a shock pump with the ball needle, which is provided in the SRP kit. If you get the valves, they do come with a ball needle, so if you don't already have one, you can get this. Now these are also for MAG 2021s, use this same setup. I'm not sure if the installation is different. It could be. Secondly, you're gonna need a 22 mil socket, flat faced. So I've ground mine flat on my bench grinder. And the reason you want it flat is these are super low profile, so we just want it. A lot of sockets are chamfered, so you don't get a lot of contact area. So by grinding it flat, you get as much surface area between the socket and the top cap here. So the first step to do this is we're gonna remove this top cap. But before we remove this, we want to make sure that there's no air in the fork. So to do that on these, and on this one there is no air because the valves are dried up and are holding air. But to do that on these forks, you'll need to remove these tiny Phillips screws. You always want to remove air out of a suspension fork before you work on it, otherwise things can be explosive. So we remove this tiny screw. So now that if you remove the tiny screw, you just want to let any air out that is in the fork. So you'll take your ball needle, you'll press it in, and you'll see it's zero. There's no air in this fork, which is why it needs the new seals. But if you did have air in your fork, you would just use the release button on your shock pump to let all the air out. So now that we've checked that there's no air in the system, we are safe to remove this top cap. So you will need your 22 mil socket. I find it works good on a breaker bar because I have enough leverage to easily unscrew this. You're just gonna get that on there. And like I said, this is where the flat faced socket is gonna come in handy because you're gonna get as much surface area on this low profile top cap. And then we're just gonna break it loose. Like so. And we just gotta spin it off. And then once it's off, I'll be able to show you the piece we're going to replace. So you'll see in there that red rubber is the air valve. So this one, it doesn't seal anymore. So as soon as you put air in and pull the needle out, all the air comes out. So we're going to repeat this step with the other side, and then we will get on to replacing these air valves. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to remove the Phillips screw. We're going to put the ball valve in to make sure there's no air in the system, and then we're going to remove the top cap. Okay, we have both our air valves. One other thing to take into consideration is there's a tiny O-ring on these tiny Phillips screws you remove, so you just want to make sure you have those and you don't lose those in the process. So we'll set those aside. We have our kit from SRP, Specialty Retro Project products, and we're just going to open this up, and we're going to need to push out these old ones, and then we'll push in these new ones. So what we're going to do to push these out is we're just going to get in there with the pick, kind of grab it. So I found that a flathead screwdriver, a tiny flathead screwdriver, works better than the pick. And you're just going to get in there and you gotta get it out. It's gonna take a little bit of persistence. Oh. And sometimes you almost get it and then it pops back in, which, because there's a groove in here that fits tight. There we go. So we've got it turned sideways. We can pop it out. So you'll see there's little ridges, just like on the new ones, that hold it in tight down in there. So now we're going to try to repeat that on this second one. So again, just picking at it with the screwdriver until I got it to kind of pop itself out, and then we pull it out. Kind of a, look to me, that's the hardest step of this whole project. It's just getting those old air valves out of here. And now, down in there is a rubber O-ring. So we want that to stay in there. Same in this one. So now, I'm gonna clean up here. Now we have our new air valve, some SRP. We're gonna add a little bit of SRAM butter just to get these to pop into place the way we want them. And then we have our top cap, we have our valve. I'll put that in there. And we need to press it all the way in, so I'm gonna use the bottom of my pick. Try to get that to fit tightly in there. And there we go. One done. So we're going to repeat that on this side. A little bit of SRAM butter so that goes in there nicely. And you can feel it as the ribs go through, and then just a few more good presses to make sure it's good and sealed in there. Now we have our two new top caps with air valves replaced. So now we're going to thread these back in. I want to put a little bit of slick of SRAM butter on this O-ring and on these threads, just to help keep everything lubricated. And we are ready to install. Okay, so now that we have our cap replaced, the air valve and the cap replaced, we're gonna just thread this back into the fork. Now we're just gonna make sure we start by hand so we don't cross any threads. And we're just gonna tighten it down. And snug them up. And repeat that on the other side. Okay, now that we've screwed the top caps in, we're going to take our needle on our pump, push it through, and then you're going to start pumping. And you'll see she's holding there. And then the fork just went thunk, because the fork finally went to where it was supposed to. So we're going to put 60 pounds in. For now. Then we're going to pull that needle out. And there's holding. I'm going to take our little screw with the grommet. I want to make sure that grommet's on there, that O-ring. I'm going to thread that in. Okay, so we now have the air in the fork. It's holding. We're going to put the front wheel back on. We're going to test out the fork. Okay, we've installed the wheel, and now we're going to check the suspension. Oh yeah, rebounds nice. It's awesome. She's working, and it looks good, not collapsed now. So that is how you replace the air valve on a first gen Sid. And now we have air on the fork. The fork works. It's awesome. First off, I want to thank the crew over at SRP for making all these great parts so we can keep vintage suspension alive on these retro mountain bikes. They make tons of parts. I also got some bearings from them for an early Gary Fisher, which I'm going to show how to replace. Just waiting on getting some Loctite 620 bearing retaining compound, and then we'll get that, show you how to do that. But now the Dean is complete. The fork is functioning. It'll be ready to ride this spring. I'm super pumped on that. I just love how the colors all came together. It's a great bike, and I'm excited to be able to ride it with a functioning fork. Thanks again for checking out the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe. It means a lot. We have a lot more content coming. Like I said, we're going to do bearing replacement, press fit bearing replacement on early Gary Fisher. We're going to finish the Rocky Mountain build, which means we're going to have to rebuild another fork. And then I got a lot more cool builds and other videos in the works. Yes, Daisy, we hear you. If you need parts for any of your vintage builds, make sure to check out our website, gringingercycles.com, at gringinger.com. We have over 1,000 parts for 80s and 90s road and mountain bikes. As I said, these air valves came from SRP. They're a great bunch. They're a great crew. So make sure to go to them if you need any suspension parts to keep your forks alive. And have a great rest of your day. Bye.